Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Music Weekly, the show where I give you guys the top 5 prog news headlines for the week, introduce you guys to some new prog singles, and give you updates on what's happening on the channel, what's happening here on Nathan on Shuffle. So it's January 24th, 2025, and kind of a lighter week in terms of news, and mainly this episode I'm going to focus on the singles that I've come across, because there's plenty of good ones that I'm really interested in and that showcase where music's headed this year, some of the big releases that are coming up, at least in the short term. So I'm going to focus more on the prog singles list today. Hopefully keep it kind of a short episode for you guys. As for the new releases this week, I see that Riverside has a new live album that was released today called Live ID, kind of their tour of their latest studio album, ID. This is a fantastic live album that I recommend to everybody. I have it on pre-order, haven't quite received my copy yet. There's multiple versions. There's like a 2 CD Blu-ray, which is the version I ordered. Then there's, of course, a vinyl version as well of the live album. But Riverside are one of my favorite bands, Polish prog rockers who started a bit more in the progressive metal vein, but have since kind of mellowed out and done more traditional prog stuff. So I think their latest record is very widely appealing, and this live album should showcase the band and their incredible talents. They were live on Cruise to the Edge, and I saw them there, so that was a lot of fun. The other release that I just listened to this morning that I wanted to quickly recommend is Avatarium and their album Between You, God, the Devil, and the Dead. This is a newly released record, more in like a doom metal space, but with little prog flourishes. Has a lot in common with like a Black Sabbath with a female lead singer. But I was just really loving it. Kind of classic sounding 70s hard rock and early metal was what I was hearing, with some organ and some cool folk influences. And I just thought it was a really cool record to recommend. Maybe one that we'll feature here on the channel in short order. So as for the news items, like I said, each one is basically just a discussion of a new single that I've seen has been released in the world of prog. The first is Dream Theater's third single, Midnight Messiah, from their forthcoming album Parasomnia. The album comes out February 7th, so not much longer now, a couple weeks away. Really excited for that release and to be able to finally hear the full album. But we've gotten 3 pretty meaty singles, so you probably should have a pretty good clue of what the album's going to be like. And to me, this was maybe the strongest of the 3 singles. I just think it's really hard-hitting, really fun, really interesting, some cool little melodic changes and shifts throughout the song. Some really great playing, a great guitar solo, just really all the things you'd expect from Dream Theater. High energy and a lot of fun. I predict this record's just going to be a fun record to get through. Maybe people will hem and haw about if it's as good as their heyday. People have high expectations with Mike Portnoy back in the fold of the band, but I think it's probably just going to continue on in the direction that they've been going. But I think it's still going to be a fun, good record that is going to be enjoyable for most like hardcore fans of the band, is my impression. So excited to dive into it deeper as I'm able to listen to more of the album, hopefully soon. Fresh Air, a new single. This is called Western Atmosphere, and this track apparently was featured as a bonus track on the Japanese edition of their recent release, Life in the Wires. So cool that they're releasing it as a single so all the rest of us can hear it. And it's a fantastic track. I really love it. It fits the aesthetic of Life in the Wires. It's fun. It uses technology. And it just has a lot of cool factor to it. A lot of cool jamming instrumental sections towards the end. Recorded with a bit of a different lineup than the Life in the Wires album proper. Jim was joined by Randy McStein, who's a very notable player who's played with Steven Wilson and Porcupine Tree as their live guitarist. And he does an excellent guitar solo on this track. Mike Keneally is also on this track, and Nick DiVirgilio is playing here. So it's really interesting with a lot of diverse talent, and definitely well worth checking out if you're a Frost or just a prog in general fan. It's a really cool track. So yeah, I think this is a lot of fun and definitely worth checking out. Dim Gray share a new single called Feathers from their forthcoming album Shards, which comes out next month. The album is coming out February 28th, so put that on your calendar. Their previous album Firmament was a fantastic one, a little bit more folky influence here, a bit more kind of an indie rock aesthetic, but with little prog flourishes as well. Their lead player is also playing with Big Big Train, so there's some crossover there as well. So a Norwegian group known for cinematic atmospheric sound that fuses rock, folk, and chamber pop. That's a great description. So this track is really fantastic, Feathers. So check it out on the Prog Singles list. In the description, I have links to all these tracks, to their YouTube videos to check out. And I have a running playlist that I'm keeping updated throughout the year of all the great prog tracks that I feature. Finnish band Royal Sorrow have a video out for their new single Evergreen. This band kind of captures a sound not unlike a band like Vola, Sleep Token, Leprous. I hear that influence here, Tesseract. So they're in like kind of the darker mode of progressive rock and progressive metal. But nothing too intense, nothing like supremely screamo or, very heavy, but just really cool, more modern sounding alternative rock / prog. Fantastic track. I loved this one. It was just very catchy, very fun, has a memorable chorus, memorable melodies, and I'm just really excited to see what they come up with next. I don't think there's been an official announcement for their upcoming release and album, which would be their first, I believe, with Inside Out. But I'm hopeful that will be coming about shortly. So we'll be hearing about that soon, I'm sure. And then I wanted to point out Jason Bieler and the Baron Von Bielski Orchestra has a new album that they've announced. Their third studio album, The Escapologist, coming out February 21st. So another album that's pretty eminently to be released here. And Jason Bieler, I reviewed his previous album, and he just is kind of off the wall, a little bit of a Frank Zappa-esque figure, putting in humor and variety, and every track like has something unique and different about it. He uses a lot of different musical styles and genres in his musical wheelhouse, and it's really fascinating. And I'm excited to hear what he comes up with. This track in particular was a lot of fun. The track that's out right now, the single, is called Savior. And it showcases his kind of zany, kind of unique vibe. If you want to listen to it, it's in my list as well. So really fantastic. His new album has an all-star lineup of musicians, including longtime collaborators, guitarist Andy Blacksugar, drummer Edu Comanato, as well as new friend and bass player extraordinaire Johan Neiman from Evergreen. So fantastic player, fantastic band. Will be fun to check that out, and I'll probably be mentioning it and spotlighting it on the channel. So excited for that. A couple of other notable singles that I want to add to the list. It's a little bit of an expanded singles list. We've got Great White Nothing and their track Rules of Engagement. This is a fantastic prog band, dipping their toes a little bit in kind of a punkier sound, but still has that kind of classic neo-prog flavor at the same time. This is a really cool prog track that I really recommend to you guys. Their previous album was Hymns for Hungry Spirits. It came out in 2 volumes back a few years ago. This is their upcoming 4th studio album. They're a band from Atlanta in the U.S., and their details of their upcoming album are to be announced later at a later date, but this is the first kind of taste of new music from them in a while, hopefully leading to a really cool, spectacular new studio album. I'm excited for that to come out in the future. Motorpsycho have a track called Stanley, Tonight's the Night. Just a 4-minute rock song. They talk about it as in the vein of like a Kiss or Slade, some kind of 70s power pop anthem here. Really cool, fun track. Probably a new album to come as well from them in the future, so I wanted to put that on the list. And then Major Parkinson, their track Algorithm as a Dancer. This is a band from Norway. Really kind of avant-garde, kind of strange band. The vocalist has a really deep, dark vocal. And they do kind of zany, interesting, different kind of music with some pop elements, with some like kind of strange avant-garde stuff, like I mentioned. You could kind of imagine them like some kind of mixture of Danny Elfman and like the Bungle, Mr. Bungle and stuff like that. There's some real haunting vibes, some really dark things going on, but then also some really interesting off-the-wall stuff. So I wanted to put that in the list as something a little bit different. But that's what I have for the Prog singles list. So hopefully you appreciated that. Like I said, check out the description if you want to listen in and check out the YouTube videos of these. As for the channel itself, this week I did a review of the new Echolin album, Time Silent Radio 7 and Time Silent Radio 2. fantastic records. They released 2 albums at once, basically. And the wider release isn't happening until March, but I was somewhat giving my early thoughts about it. So if you're curious, please check that video out. I also did my top 25 albums of the 21st century so far, going back all the way to the year 2000 up to now, with some very arbitrary rules to kind of make and craft a list that I thought was pretty interesting of some of the best records, in my opinion, especially in the field of progressive rock over the past 25 years. So that's definitely worth checking out. I'm going to have another Sunday Shuffle this week. Last week was a lot of fun with a Jethro Tull track, Rover, listening a first listen for my wife. We do kind of a reaction style video. We have a newer Prog reaction coming out this Sunday. Then I'm going to be doing a top 5 this week, kind of celebrating the 50th anniversary albums. My top 5 albums from 1975 will be coming out this week as a little bit of a fun additional video before February hits, where we're going to get a lot more of the reviews. But right now the reviews are pretty sparse because there's not really a ton coming out in January. But there's a lot of promise ahead, a lot of cool, fun stuff. Like I said, I'm going to be reviewing the new Dream Theater at some point in the near future. New Pattern Seeking Animals is coming out right behind that one, and a whole host of interesting new stuff in February. So that's really where the kickoff begins for great new music for this year, and I'm excited to dive into it for you all. So thank you for joining me on this a bit of a lighter episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it still. And I'll be catching you guys hopefully in future episodes if you stick around. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I do this every week. It's a lot of fun to keep everyone apprised of some of the newer stuff that's happening in the prog world. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you guys in a future episode. Bye everybody. Enjoy the music.